Hello everybody, so this would be our very first lesson of Media Studies GCSE, and the first thing you're going to need is an exercise book, and you're going to need to write your name on that, and you're going to need a folder as well. If you're just watching this along as a recap or just as a general interest in media, then some of this will be slightly irrelevant. This is the lesson I would deliver very first for meeting a new class for the first time, so there is going to be some logistical element to this in setup. But in essence, what you're going to need is some way of making notes throughout this process. Ideally, you'll stop the video at certain points to carry on with tasks and to do some of the actual activities, but make sure you've got a decent set of notes building. I highly recommend you do this by hand, especially if you're going to be writing your exams by hand. Many of you like to use a computer to make your notes, just file them as neatly as possible. So I'm going to deliver this as if it was a lesson in a classroom. You'll just have to make note of when to pause things to give yourself enough time to complete the activities and the tasks. So don't do anything just yet. But today we are starting on our first topic, which is simply an introduction to the media. In a moment, when I say go, not before, please turn to a brand new page in your book and write a nice big title for the topic, Introduction to the Media. Do this in capital letters. Then draw a neat box around it and highlight. Now, for this topic, I'm going to be highlighting in red. Future topics are going to be orange, green, blue, purple, and pink. So if you want to stick with the same as me for now, just to keep it simple, that's probably the best plan. Underneath your new topic title, you're going to need to write the lesson title and today's date with a neat double underline. Use a ruler. So you have 45 seconds to prepare your first page. Pause the video now and give yourself that time. Right, pens down, sitting up straight, looking at the screen. We're not writing anything just yet. Keep your hands free. It's really important that you focus and pay attention. So welcome to our first topic, which, as we said, is going to be an introduction to the media. Before we get into all the heavy theory and the academics and all the details that come along with that, we need to make sure that you have a decent understanding of what the media actually is. So today we're going to be looking at the three formats, which is basically the style of media or what types of media there are. Media is about communication, not like how I'm communicating with you right now with words and tone of voice. If you could see me, I've got hand gestures and eye contact and body language. But unlike that personal communication, media is designed to reach and influence many people at once. So this can be entertainment, information, education, advertising, even user-generated content. So social media posts, reviews, comments. During this course, we're going to study 9 types of media: newspapers, magazines, adverts, radio, television, film, music video, video games, and social media. So when did the media start? Well, humans have existed for around 100,000 to 250,000 years, and for most of that time, our communication was limited to within our own tribes. Storytelling allowed us to pass on morals, skills, and traditions, our values and beliefs. However, this is confined or restricted to just the tribe. Early human tribes did record some information through cave paintings and rock carvings, preserving their stories and important events, but they can't be shared with that many people. It's not like we can drag a cave around and take it to the other tribes. So we had a long period of time where we couldn't really communicate to more than just a handful of people at any one time. This all changed around 600 years ago with the invention of the printing press. So humans had developed paper sometime around the 2nd century. That's about 1800 years ago. But it was the printing press that really revolutionized communication. Before this, we could write a book, but it would take decades to make even a handful of copies. Also, not many people could actually read, so progress in spreading information was quite slow. The printing press allowed for rapid mass production, making it cheaper and easier to produce things like magazines and newspapers. However, even though we now have a cheaper and mass-produced media, there are still some limitations. Print media is physical pieces of media, again, newspapers and magazines. So it's limited because you have to distribute copies to people. If you wanted your newspaper to be read in America, you'd have to put it on a horse and cart, get it to the docks, put it on a ship, sail for a few weeks, and then transport it again to wherever it's going to end up. The news wouldn't exactly be new anymore. It would be the olds by then. Still, it was better than nothing. Now, in a lesson, what I would do here is ask my students to answer a few questions, partly to see if they're paying attention and partly to see if they've taken on board what we've covered so far. So as this is a video, what I recommend you do is listen to the questions I'm going to ask and then try and bullet point your answers on a mini whiteboard. Having a mini whiteboard with you rather than doing this in your book is a good way of making what I like to call scrappy notes, jotting down the few ideas before we commit it in stone, if you like, in our books. So if you could answer these questions based on what we've been talking about. What is print media? What impact did the printing press have on media? And what limitations does print media have? Feel free to pause the video here to bullet point your ideas, rewind it if you need the questions again, but can you answer that without watching the whole video up to this point? So, what is print media? Well, it's physical printed products like newspapers, magazines. And what impact did the printing press have on media? Well, it made it cheaper and faster to create. What limitations does print media have? Well, it's physical, so you have to distribute it, and that can take time. It's slow to get around. About 100 years ago, we experienced another major technical shift that progressed media even further, and that is the discovery of electricity. We quickly learned that electricity could be used to send signals across the airwaves. That started with sound, so radio, and it soon progressed to moving images, so film and television. Now it didn't matter if you could read or write, and you no longer had to go to a shop or physically get the product. This is much more convenient and a lot quicker. Any technology that allows us to communicate quicker, easier, or to more people at once has been key in evolving the media. So now if you broadcast a news program, America would receive it instantly. You can live report from anywhere on the planet. And this is the dawn of globalization of the media, the spreading of media around the world. So again, what I would do here is ask my students to answer a few questions on their mini whiteboards, and then we might discuss it for a few moments. You might want to pause the video after I've asked the questions to give yourself some time to do it, but don't take too long. This should be quite quick fire. So, what is broadcast media? What advantages does broadcast have over print? So what is broadcast media? Well, it's media that's sent to audiences through TV and radio. And what advantages does broadcast have over print? Well, it's quicker. You don't need to read. It can be more entertaining because it's visual. It can be live. You've got sound and moving image. So quite a few advantages there. But that's not all. In today's world, the media has undergone another significant shift. In just the past 20 years, we've witnessed a dramatic change, a revolution in media technology. So now the media is interactive. It can be created by anyone, and it's portable, made possible by the technologies such as Web 2.0, which is the latest version of the internet, mobile devices, high-powered computers. Amateurs can now create media as well, because we all have high-quality cameras, editing suites, and even a way to distribute the things we film right in our pockets. I am, of course, talking about our phones. Technology has even impacted the financial models of media. That's the way they make money. Take video games, for example. It used to be that we would just buy a game. Well, now we can get them for free, but they offer in-app purchases and battle passes and subscriptions. We used to buy films on DVDs, or if you're old like me, on VHS tapes. But now we subscribe and stream content to our smart TVs, to our tablets, to our phones. The biggest difference is what has happened to the audience. We're no longer just consumers of the media. We don't just watch the films and read the newspapers. We're producers as well. We actively engage with things. We leave comments, we like posts, we even create the content ourselves. So OS&P, online social and participatory media, is where it's at today. So again, a couple of questions. What is OS&P media? What advantages does OS&P have over broadcast and print? Well, OS&P media is online, social, and participatory media. That means it's interactive and online. And what advantages does OS&P have over broadcast and print? Well, again, it's quicker, it's interactive, you can make it yourself, it offers different ways to pay, different funding models. In fact, it's pretty much different in every conceivable way. Right. Here is where in the classroom I would be getting my students to do more of a collaborative task. So in a moment, when I say go, and not before, you're going to split your mini whiteboard into 3 sections like this and label each section print, broadcast, and OS&P. I'd give you 30 seconds to do that. Again, to save time on the video, push pause now to get that done. Okay, again, in a moment, when I say go, you are going to discuss, if you had a partner, or in your own head, consider which of these forms of media are print, which are broadcast, and which are OS&P. You're going to write them in the correct sections of your board. For this, you've got 1 minute, 60 seconds to put those in the right categories. Go. Okay, again, if I was in a classroom, I'd be taking feedback from all of my students. However, if you're watching this on your own, then just see if you got them right. So for print, we should have newspapers, magazines, and adverts. For broadcast, we would have television, radio, music videos, film, and adverts again. Adverts can be in print and adverts can be in TV and news and radio. And what about OS&P? Video games, social media, and of course, again, adverts. Adverts are everywhere. And in future lessons, we'll explore exactly why that is. Here we have a relatively straightforward definition of the 3 formats of media. Again, if this was in a live lesson, I would do what's known as an I say, you say, which is where I would say the word, and then my students would say the word out loud. And that can seem a little bit it can seem a little bit uncomfortable, but there's scientific proof and evidence that saying words out loud makes them more memorable and helps you understand what they are. So, if you're in a position where you can, say out loud with me now, print, broadcast, OS&P. And for good measure, I think we should also say out loud, online, social, and participatory. In a moment, when I say go, not before, you're going to create a keyword list at the back of your books. Now, this is something we're going to continue through all of our future lessons, and we're going to build a dictionary of words from the back of our books. So when I say go, you need to turn to the back page of your book and set it up like this. Use a ruler. Neatness counts. I'm going to give you 45 seconds to get this far, but again, as you're watching this, just push pause, give yourself time to set that up. Okay, go. Right, our next thing is we need to add a definition for print media. So what is print media, and can you think of any examples? Now again, in lessons, we'd be trying to do this without me revealing too much, but if you need it, here is how it should look. Print, physical printed products, for example, newspapers, magazines, and adverts. As this is a keyword list, you don't need full sentences. So what's next? Broadcast media. So broadcast, we would have something like Media sent to audiences through TV and radio. That's films, TV shows, radio programs, music videos. And finally, OS&P. Online, social and participatory media, interactive and online, for example, social media and video games. If you need more time, push pause again and make sure you have these keywords at the back of your books. So, print media was arguably one of the most important things mankind has ever embarked upon. It took us out of the dark ages. It gave us science, enlightenment, and entertainment. The invention of the printing press allowed for the mass production of print media. So this made it cheaper, easier, and quicker to make. Broadcast media came next after the discovery of electricity. By the 1930s, radio was a common platform. Around 9 million households, that was 85%, had a radio by the end of the 1930s. In the 1960s, more and more families had their own TV sets. Unlike radio, TV had the power to show people what was happening, not just tell them. Radio and TV were very popular because it was easier to access. You didn't have to read, and it was much more convenient. You didn't have to go and buy the newspaper, for example. It was live and instant, especially when compared with print media. Combined, print and broadcast are known as traditional media or old media because they are linear, one way, like a line. Producers make the content and the audience consumes it. Audiences can't interact with them or feedback in any way. You can change the channel, you can turn it up or down, you can fill in the crossword, but that's not getting back to the producers. Now, old media is still used today. It's not old as in from the past, it's old as in old-fashioned. So what makes these old media isn't that they have been around for ages, it's that they're old-fashioned. New media, often referred to as digital media, based on computers, has been the real game changer. In essence, it's all of OS&P, online, social and participatory media. But the speed of this new development has been insane. OS&P includes things like video games, social media, websites and apps, and is based on computing technology, the internet, mobile technology like Wi-Fi and smartphones. The main difference is that it's interactive. So audiences participate in it and respond. So unlike old media, new media is two-way communication, or what's known as non-linear. We, the audience, actively create and add to it. We produce the content as well as consume it. Think of a video game. We don't just watch the video game, we play the video game. We choose where the character goes and what the characters do, especially in open sandbox games like Grand Theft Auto or The Sims. The impact of new media is mammoth. It's so impactful that it's even changing old media itself. Television is not how it used to be. With old media, television was a one-way thing. You can change the channel, put on a tape or a DVD, but that's it. Now we can live stream, binge watch series, play from the beginning, and even share our favorites with our friends. Netflix watch parties allow you to sync up a viewing with friends and have an open chat menu whilst you're watching it. Disney Plus gives you because you watched and uses an algorithm to suggest content. With old and traditional newspapers, they were released weekly, possibly daily, but they only had pictures and words. And even broadcasts, so television news, you could only watch it when it was on. New media news is very different. Now it's on your phone, so it's mobile, but it's also connected to other types of media like videos. You can also join the discussion by commenting on the stories and engage with others. Audiences can have personalized news feeds with stories most relevant to them, not just the same thing everyone else is getting. So, again, if this was in my classroom, I would now have my students have a discussion. We call that a turn and talk. This is where you would talk to the person next to you. And this is the base question, or the base statement, if you like. Old media is no longer relevant. Discuss. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why and why not? So I would want you to discuss ways in which you agree, but also where you might disagree. What you should do is bullet point your ideas on your mini whiteboards. So what I like to do as well here is give some development questions. Sometimes you don't know how to get started, you don't know what to discuss. So think about these things. Does the age of the audience matter? Does the type of media matter? Do we trust some media more than others? And if so, why? And what can you do or not do with some types of media? Now, answering those questions and thinking about those questions will help you decide how far you agree with the statement of old media is no longer relevant. As a quick reminder, old media is broadcast and print, and new media is OS&P. Again, if this was in my classroom, we'd be discussing it, and then I'd be taking some feedback, and I'd be orchestrating a conversation between students. As you're watching this just as a video, you're going to have to maybe jot your ideas down on your whiteboard and consider it amongst your own consciousness. Pause the video now, give yourself 2 minutes to think about this. So as for feedback, these are some of the points that students tend to think about at this stage. So agreeing with the statement. Well, audiences now expect some level of interactivity, some kind of personalization, the ability to share. So that makes old media irrelevant because it can't do that. People can watch and listen and read on one device instead of having to buy newspaper, CDs or DVDs. On your tablet, your phone, your smart TV, you can do all of it. Streaming and on-demand platforms have replaced traditional broadcast schedules. You don't have to wait for 6 o'clock on Channel 2 to watch The Simpsons. You can watch it whenever you like. And younger generations mainly consume media online. They don't pick up newspapers. They don't go onto TV at a certain time. So arguments against. Well, newspapers, radio and TV, they still exist and they reach millions every day. Older audiences specifically still use them. Old media often has more trust and credibility compared to online sources. Anything online can be faked so much easier than, say, a newspaper or a TV show. So we kind of trust old media more. Some people prefer the experience of physical media. They like buying a book or going to the cinema. And traditional or old media brands have adapted by moving online. It's not that old media is disappearing, it's that it's combining with new media. So there are arguments here that old media isn't relevant anymore, but also that old media still has a place in today's society. Right. So what's left to do now is summarize what we've explored today in the front of your books. So in a moment, when I say go and not before, you're going to write about what we've explored today in the front of your books. This will need to be in full sentences. You're going to need to explain what the media is, the 9 types or forms of media you're going to study, the 3 formats of media. Explore how they're different to each other and what similarities they may have. Use a ruler if you're going to include subheadings, but again, this is in full sentences and paragraphs. I would give you between 8 and 10 minutes in a lesson to try and summarize all of this. Now, you may need a little bit more support. If you do, here are some sentence stems that you might want to consider and some keywords from today's lesson that you might want to include. Try and do this completely on your own, but if you need it, this is here for you to help you get started. Again, pause the video here for the amount of time you need. So that brings us to the end of this lesson. Hopefully now you can explain what the media is and you can identify the 3 formats. You should also be able to identify the 9 different types of media we're going to study and have some understanding of the impact of how it's changed over time. Questions you should be able to answer now. What is print media? What impact did the printing press have on media? What limitations does print media have? What is broadcast media? What advantages does broadcast have over print? What is OS&P media? And what advantages does OS&P have over both broadcast and print? What is old media? And what is new media? If you can answer all of those questions, then you've gathered everything you can from this lesson. So where do you go next? Well, it might be in my classroom that we'd still have a bit of time left, depending on how quickly we got through some of those activities. Now you still have time left because you're watching this as a video. So, as an extension, here is a statement. The most effective way to promote a new product is putting adverts in a magazine. To what extent do you agree? Try and answer that question with the knowledge you've learned from this lesson. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next lesson.